You want to talk about bad Spider-Man movies? How about the newest one? Holy, that new one was f***ing abysmal. I hated it.
Whoa! Whoa! Okay.
They're wrong, just like everyone who likes Spider-Man Homecoming. You're wrong. It's a bad movie. There, that's my hot take.
You want to talk about bad Spider-Man movies? How about the newest one? Holy, that new one was f***ing abysmal. I hated it.
Okay. Let's calm down and let's actually, let's lube up our audience a bit more. We don't want to just go head in first into this hole. We want to lube them up here first. Get it? Because, the spot. Anyways, so first
Let's
off.
go back to one. Wait.
Let's go back to one. Thank you.
Let's go back to one.
Exactly, yeah. So, the Four Snake, as usual, got into a bit of a controversy recently. And
yeah, it's true.
Let me just say this, by the way. So Snake always has some hot takes all the time. It's common knowledge. Just recently, he had a tweet where he literally said, "This is his tweet, by the way." He says, "Peak character design," and it's just an opinion. I thought that would I thought that would piss off way more people. Honestly, I was like, "Oh my goodness, you went for the throat."
Well, I think with that one, it's a case of people. I think a lot of people just don't know how to take that. I think a lot of people just either assume, yeah, that's true. A lot of people are like that, or people just like, yes, it's true. I agree. That is peak design. So I think it just conveniently got to a point where most people just assumed the best, and so got away with it.
Probably, yeah.
I will not specify how I intended people to take it. I will leave it to your interpretation so that no one can get mad at me.
Very smart, very smart. So let me first say this, because back a week ago I was just like, if you mention the word spider or have like any image of like Miles or anything like that, I will skip your tweet. I will not read it. I will not look at all because I did not see the movie yet and I don't want to spoil about it. So I was not in the rage like when it happened, basically, because I wasn't too sure. Because I went back to look at your tweets, Snake, and I did find one, but I thought you had did you have another tweet that you were like saying something along the lines of like, I do not care about Spider-Verse or something like that, or did you only have that one tweet?
Well, I know I had that one. I had one later on where I was a bit more specific about.
You talked about
the
wait, by the way, spoilers for Spider-Verse, just so you know right now, everybody. Spoilers for Spider-Verse. We're gonna get right into it basically, but you had to tweet about the ending fights, the ending action scene, right? That's the one that I saw. I did not see the other one. I couldn't find the other one that you had.
That's the one people responded more positively to. Cause I guess because I was specific, like, here's the reason why, and I laid it out across 2 tweets. With the other one,
that's an opinion that I hear a lot of people have about the movie too. Is that like last part of the movie, basically that thing? Why I mean, we're spoilers. The fact that
I did have a tweet where I laid out a bunch of grievances. Like, I didn't really care for the art style in Gwen's world. It felt a bit too artsy-fartsy, and I felt like it wasn't as like clean an art style as like what we have in the main verse, which I think is actually a really solid art style. Like it kind of felt different for the sake of being different. It's a style that I think works for like a flashback to explain her backstory, but not for like the first 20 minutes of the movie.
Okay. I did hear some people, and not a lot of people online, but I've heard some people say that because this movie, they really the first Spider-Verse movie, they had different art styles, interesting shenanigans, but this movie, they're like, okay, you're used to that, we're gonna push that to the limit in this movie. We're gonna
Spider-Punk was way over the top. He could not even stick to an art style. Spider-Punk was always changing.
Yeah, I loved it though, honestly, but I mean, like,
Spider-Punk was watching another thing that I didn't like, and a lot of people didn't really engage with what I had to say in regards to Spider-Punk, which is that I can't stand his character because he has one personality trait, is he is a punk, and that's all he does. He constantly just brings it up, like, I don't trust people in charge.
He is a rebel,
It's like, yes, dude,
character.
We get it. You don't need to reiterate your one character trait every time you open your fucking mouth. So I just wanted him to stop talking. And some people, and so I said, I want him to fucking stop talking. And some people were like, nah, peak character. And I'm like, no, fuck off. I hate him.
Okay, so I want to mention one thing, by the way. So, like, this is the kind of movie, because like there's some movies where it's like, okay, we can have opinions, we can talk about it and all that kind of shenanigans. This is the kind of movie where like for some reason it's like religiously like believe that you need to think that this is the most perfect 10 out of 10 movie like ever. It needs to be nominated as Best Picture in the Oscars this year, that kind of movie. And I'm like, I want more of a discussion with the film. Like I don't want to just keep like constantly praising this film and all that kind of stuff. And I mean there's a lot of great things and whatnot, but like some people, if you have any problem with the movie, like you're gonna get like, I don't know, you'll be clipped out of like someone might just clip you out of context, be like, look how much of a loser Force Snake is. I bet he's a racist and all that kind of stuff for this opinion. Yeah, because and whatnot.
Well,
like, and that annoys me.
That's the thing, Sonic, is welcome to Spider-Man Twitter. It's been a hellhole like this for years. It's always been like this.
Oh yeah.
How is the nicest hero have the worst community on Twitter?
Yeah.
How does this happen?
But yeah, Spider-Verse is one of those things where like I definitely have seen a lot more like religiously. It's like you need to be careful how you say this movie, which I think is kind of annoying. It's because personally, I love the movie, but like I have issues with it too. I think there are some things that I'm not 100% on board, and yeah. But I want to say this though, like. We could get into the nitty gritty, but like I think we should get more into the general, like a more general review of it, because 3 hours and 30 minutes in this podcast, you know.
I'm sure we can get it done in like 20 minutes or something.
Okay, let me do my little minor grievances then, because on the one hand, I do think the film is a visual masterpiece, and I want to love it so much. The soundtrack was also really good. There were some parts where I got hit with genuine escapism that I haven't felt since I was like a little kid, where I was just watching the movie and just 100% enjoying it. Like I'm very much in the scene, right?
Yeah.
My only real gripe is that they turned Miles into a literal Gary Stu. This boy was untouchable.
I've heard about this,
and somehow like succeeds. Miguel can barely get a hold of him. And then I hope they flip this in the final movie, because like technically, even though Miles has good intentions, he's literally in the wrong if you think about it from a moral standpoint, because he's gambling the entire universe for just one person's life, which is bad no matter how you slice it. But the film really wants you to think Miguel is bad, to the point where they even give him the scary sound effects and the scary music whenever he shows up, and they make him really mean to Miles. To me, I think he's portrayed well most of the time, because he's like a father trying to manage a bunch of kids. That's how he comes off to me. But so I hope in the next film they do finally get that moment where it's like, hey, let's be real here for a second. Miles, even if you were right, like you risked way too much, like, or whatever. But the problem is that's not how everyone sees it. Like the movie is, everyone misinterprets a lot of stuff in the film that happens. And it's just kind of annoying how dumb people are on YouTube. They don't understand what Miguel's actually doing. They're like, he's so mad that he wants to save his dad. No, he's afraid the whole universe will fall apart if you change too much, and it's not worth risking it. Now, there's still some dumb stuff in there. Like, Peter B. Parker would never be a part of the Spider Society. Like, I just don't think he would. And the Spider Society, let's be honest, was made just for the trailer. Because aside from a couple gags, like, they're not even competent. They suck. Like, they couldn't even capture one guy. That's really bad.
How long has he been
Oh, here's a defense that I've heard, by the way.
A year.
It's been like 8 months or something like that. Like,
at least a year, right? Because Miles is like grown a year. He's been Spider-Man for like a year. Here's the defense I've heard about that argument, Trono Dog. Miles is a very different Spider-Man. Like, he uses electricity and can go invisible. That's very different. That's enough to go across like 200 Spider people.
If you want to have him run away, that's completely fine. Because like when he's running away and they haven't quite caught him, that's completely fine. When he jumps out the window, completely fine. The issue is they have that iconic shot of the Spider-Man all grabbing him in like a giant spider ball. And my first thought as a huge Spider-Man nerd was, it's over. Because Spider-Man is sticky.
They're all very strong,
that's his whole power. Well, he's sticky. And it's an actual fact that even if the Hulk wants to unstick Spider-Man, he can't. It's impossible. He'll just pull the wall apart, but the wall will still be stuck to Peter Parker's fingertips. You can't unstick him. So once Miles got grabbed, it was GG. It's just game over. Like, he can't get away. But like,
to
yeah,
the
that was my
film's
main
credit,
gripe.
though, they don't really like show that in even the previous movies. Well, they do show. Oh wait, shit, they do.
And also
they
the
do
idea
show that
that
actually.
The idea that
you know what, they
Spider-Man
do show
is
that.
after
Sorry
him
about
is
that.
so weird too. Like, there'd be a lot that were like, huh? Like, why?
Yeah, this is one of the things. Is like in a similar vein to Miles, kind of seems like a bit of a Gary Sue in terms of abilities. I worry that that's kind of what the approach they're going to take in terms of character, because it's interesting how all the Peter Parkers are on Miguel's side now.
Currently,
Miguel is technically right. He is really, in the bigger picture, he's in the right. But the message is kind of like Unlimited Blade works. Just because you're correct doesn't mean you're right. And so I feel like that we should have had a bit more setup for the Spider Society and these other Spider-Men. Like, how did Miguel convince them? Like, they're all just going along with it. I mean, do we even know
why would we even do it? Doesn't that jeopardize the canon to invite them into that realm in the first place? Because now they're not.
Wait. Hang on a second.
He wouldn't do it. It's just for the trailer.
No. Here's the thing about the canon, by the way, because I heard about this argument being mentioned here. The canon isn't necessarily just like pulling Gwen out of like her world and that ruins her canon and stuff like that. The canon is only specific moments.
I know, but he could have pulled her out during that moment by accident, and then her universe would have fallen apart.
Well, like, he knows what the canons are for each universe.
But how do you know when they're going to happen exactly? Like, it seems like that thing on the alert
Lila
like,
will tell him
it's about to happen.
I mean, like, Lila was like, oh, canon event's about to happen, guys. Oh, here we go. We can't disturb them and stuff like that. They have the technology to know that.
But it was like 10 seconds prior. I guess I just feel like it's not just his canon event. Like, it's not just Spider-Man. That's a misconception, too. Theoretically, you're just messing up the canon of that universe. So what if just taking Gwen out of the universe for a bit messed up someone else's canon event? Because there's other superheroes that exist in that world, not just Spider-Man. So, like...
That's very specific.
Like, there's other planets, too. It just doesn't make any sense. I get that it was for the trailer to have all the Spider-Men together and whatnot. And it was funny to watch them all run across the tightrope and just screw over that one Spider-Man holding the two webs together.
Oh, I remember that.
And he's like,
I'm just training here.
It makes them all look super stupid, though, to even attempt that. Like, again, they all get reduced to idiots just so Miles can, like, escape. Spider-Man's super smart, by the way. Like, all Spider-Men are, like, scientists and really smart, so, like, they would have caught him. But, you know,
why would Spider-Man run across a tightrope indoors in a building that's designed for Spider-Man, and thus would obviously not have some kind of, like, web-resistant thing? Like, why don't they just swing across?
Yeah. On a happy note, too.
They don't do it because it's ha-ha funny to fuck over another Spider-Man. But, like, all the Spider-Men in this film, like, they're all just... This is one thing that fucks me off, is because they bring in Spectacular Spider-Man, and he has to be like, no, Miles, I'm sorry, this is how it goes. A Spider-Man who I don't recall, I don't remember George Stacy dying in his show, so it's weird to be like, oh yeah, he died after the show, so he knows for sure. Like, yeah, you had footage of Andrew Garfield. Could you not have got him in for a cameo to reprise his Spidey? I mean, they referenced the events of that movie. They referenced that movie here, so I mean, I hope they don't just have, Andrew and Toby going to show up and help out or something in the next one. But
who knows? I don't think so, but yeah, who knows?
It's just one of those things, like, because I'm worried that it's like they're pushing Miles as, like, he's the one who doesn't just give up because things seem impossible.
That was my issue too. They made it seem like Miles is the only person who's morally good, when in reality he's making the most morally selfish decision in the entire movie.
It is a very selfish decision.
But the film wants you to. But the film's clearly trying to make it seem like he's the most righteous, when it's like literally the opposite. And that's what bothers
me. I think that depends on how you watch it, because because Shonerdog, you're straight up just saying, like, I don't want to be on Miles' side about this situation, and hey, this is my only time I disturbed you, okay, Snake? Come on now, you don't need to be that mad. I let you guys talk a lot here, but
Snake.
But, like, there's a lot of like media that's like that basically.
That looked like a penis for a minute. Holy shit!
Oh no!
Oh gosh!
I'm very well endowed. Fair.
Yeah. So the intro's gonna the intro's gonna have that finger, like, censored.
But yeah, essentially it's like, because I love these type of conflicts where it's like, who's in the right and who's in the wrong. Dog is 100% Team Miguel. Like, that's obviously from this discussion. It's like, you should not... I
don't even want to take a side. I just hate that the film is clearly trying to make you feel that way, to the point where even Gwen, who's the other main character, is also on Miles' side.
Miguel's side.
She goes, we're supposed to be the good guys. And it's all dramatic. And Miguel goes, we are. And it should have been left there. But they add that extra line where he looks back at his men who are, like, doubting themselves, and he goes, we are. So even the film wants you to think that he's wrong, and that, like, really bothers me, because at the most basic common sense level, he's not.
Dog, here's the thing, though. This depiction has been done so many times in media where it's like, would you save a life to save 100? And, like, that's literally like the train meme and all that kind of stuff. It's like, of course, I want to save 100, but it's like, okay, well, what if that person is someone you very, 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 very care about? That's the kind of dynamic that they're implying also in this film.
Except in this
metaphor, obviously,
the person you save also dies. Because if Miles is wrong and saves his dad, he still dies.
Well, there's a chance. You never know, kind of a thing.
I know.
It's like even in India.
He should have said that. He should have said there's a chance, but instead it's like, nah, I'm gonna do my own thing, and it's like seems like this real powerful like line, and I'm like, that's so selfish. That's what villains say.
Well, he is trying to do something different, obviously, because he's
now,
like 2 days ahead of time.
I have a big Hail Mary theory about what I think is actually happening, but I worry it's actually correct, so it's probably better shared off video. But sorry, go ahead and say your thing.
I think they're implying what's going to happen because they kind of imply saying like Gwen maybe saved her dad because he's not a captain and he's not like working in the police anymore. I think maybe that's the angle they're going with too, but I have really no idea where they're going to do, especially with that ending in this movie.
I just hope they're not lazy and make it to where Miguel's just wrong, and that's it. That would be super annoying.
I don't want that either.
That's the tricky thing about discussing this film, is because it is the first part of a duology, and I say that loosely because really this isn't a duology, it's one movie split into two. Like, it doesn't feel... It's one of the criticisms I had is the fact that the climax doesn't feel like a climax. It feels like the end of Act 2, and so where the next film is just going to feel like Act 3 stretched out into feature length. But, like, the tricky thing about discussing it is, it's entirely possible that they're going to be, Miles, you are absolutely wrong. Miguel is correct. Unfortunately, that's just how it is sometimes, and that's the reveal. So the film is like setting you up to be on Miles' side, to be in his shoes.
That would be great if they actually do that. And the
sequel pulls the rug out from under you.
Yeah,
that's a possibility. It's also possible they're not going to do that. It's possible that they will just be, now Miles is right. He will find a way to save his dad, and
he's the greatest Spider-Man to ever spider.
That's the thing that I really hope they don't, or at least if they do that, I hope they do it well, because I love these there's two options here, and either one of these there's gonna be some sort of sacrifice in this, Scorpion's revenge. I always bring this up with Scorpion being like, kill Liu Kang, I'll give you Quan Chi. You don't kill Liu Kang, of course I'm not gonna fucking, what kind of dilemma is this? I'm just gonna betray you. Yeah, I hated that. I hated that so much because of the option thing that doesn't make any sense. Whenever there's like these presenting like two really bad outcomes, and it's just like, oh, what are they gonna choose? There is a certain scene in Attack on Titans that does this, and it's one of my favorite scenes in that show, season 3 ending, if you know what I'm talking about. And like that's a very good moment when you have that kind of outcome and stuff like that. But what they usually do is they introduce this third option that like solves both of these problems. Hey, it's all good. It's like, if that third option is very weak and just kind of like saves all this kind of stuff, then I would say that's very weak. But for now, I do like this whole option. It's like, you save your dad and screw over 100 people, or just don't save him and grow from that kind of a thing. Like, I hope the sequel does this aspect like good. I will say.
Those kind of third options can work, like in the first Spider-Man movie when he saves MJ and the kids, and it works as like a nice empowering moment.
In this first movie,
But the thing is, like, this is one of those where it's like, it doesn't feel like it's going to go that way. It feels like it's just. I feel like it's going to be, here's the big third option that probably what's her name, who's in charge of the parcels, will just come up with, because she's the super genius. She'll I'm gonna,
her.
No, Spot will probably have something to do with it, because when you think about it, other than being. Actually, Spot's not even the catalyst for the events, really. He's just kind of there.
Currently, yeah. We'll see what happens now.
So I imagine it'll be something like Miles will apologize to Spot, and Spot will be like, you know what, dude, I'm going to help you out. And then he'll find some kind of solution, like, I don't know, like he'll find some kind of solution that'll save the universe, and everything will be fine. And he'll be like, yeah, Miles was right. We should think outside the box. We all, Peter Parker, the original Spider-Mans, we have learned a valuable lesson from this new, very impressive younger Spider-Man. And that's one of my concerns, is that it's pushing the Peters down to prop up Miles when it doesn't need to do that. So again, it is possible that they are going to.
We'll see.
But pull the rug out from under everyone and say, no, straight up, Miles is wrong. You can't do it, which I feel would actually be a worse outcome, because that means that there are these limitations placed on the setting rather than, no, you can make your own destiny. You're not bound in this box of being Spider-Man. Like, you can do that. I mean, it's one of those where it's like, so Andrew is part of this multiverse. It happened to him. What about Toby?
It happened to him too. You could actually see him in the background in one scene where he's actually next to Uncle Ben.
Yeah, that's Uncle Ben. That's not the police captain close to him. Toby never had a police captain close to him die.
No.
So unless they're going to say, like with Spectacular, they're going to say it happened off screen. Don't trust us, guys. It happened. It happened to PS4 Spider-Man. It happened to every one of them.
Is it always Spider-Man. I don't think it's always the police captain though. I think that was more specific for like Gwen.
It's got to be someone really vital to you. I think.
No. He says specifically. That's why with Gwen, it's like there is potential because her dad doesn't become the captain. He doesn't get promoted, so he's not going to be a captain.
I know it's for Gwen and Miles.
But where was Gwen Stacy's Uncle Ben? No, it's Peter. But so I have a fan theory, and this would be a pretty cool way to salvage it, I think. But it's pure fan fiction. Like, imagine if Spot's the big bad, right? Has this big dramatic appearance, and other Spider-Men are trying to stop him because he's like in the wrong universe and whatnot, but they have no chance, right? So maybe he calls out saying like, "I'll only accept fighting Miles. Like, Miles has to face me," but Miles is trying to like save the city because it's like falling apart and stuff. And then Miguel is like, you know what? Miles, take him. Everyone else, Spider-Man, save the city, save Miles' dad, and they just like switch spots. Be kind of cool, I feel like in that moment they realize, you know what, like let's just maybe like Miguel compels himself to do the right thing in the end, and then Miles does the opposite. He leaves his dad to be saved by the Spider-Man, puts it in their hands, and trusts them to do it, but he takes on Spot because Spot wants to be his rival. That'd be really interesting. Cool. I feel like
I can see it happening, but
here's
one of the big questions: is how do we know for sure that Miguel is correct? Because all he really has is
about the canon events.
Because
we don't.
That was my next theory.
Like, he changed one thing in the universe, and then that one universe collapsed. Like, that could be completely disconnected. It could have been Kingpin's Collider thing could have caused it.
I've heard some of the people mention that.
Plus,
this is the reason
too,
why
than what happened to Peter B. Parker. It looked completely different. I mean, not Peter B. Parker. Pavadikar. It looked completely different when his world was falling apart. It was like a black hole, whereas with Miguel's, they're like phasing out of existence. Like in his hand, like the daughter went away. It
became very bad. It changed so much that it's very different in that aspect.
So it seems like that's going to be the third option, is that Miguel's just fucking wrong. He's an idiot. He's a dumb piece of shit. And like Miles was correct to just say no. Fuck you, and then that's the solution.
Nah, man.
The solution is one of the options just doesn't actually exist.
Yeah, that'd be the worst case scenario.
Worst case,
which is what I'm worried they're going with.
But anyways, a bit back on track. But like, what? So in terms of opinions, by the way, I would say like out of the three, I think I like the movie here the most, and Dog likes it too. But he obviously also has the issues. How? So you really, really don't like the movie Snake, I'm assuming?
No. I'm probably going to give it another go when the new one comes out, just because obviously I can't just watch the new one on its own. Clearly, you're going to have to watch both back to back to fully appreciate exactly what they're doing here. It's just, as it is right now, it doesn't feel like anything. It really feels like they just dropped half the movie and said, wait a year for the other half. And I really hate that. So, because I think because a lot of the issues I have with the story and such, like I feel like the canon event thing is a stupid idea to introduce because of how it limits how you've introduced the multiverse, you open it up and inherently limiting it. Like these things have to happen in all the universes.
But the memes. No, you're right.
Shut the fuck up.
Oh, the memes. That's right. I do see those.
Bro.
So I worry about
what's his canon
that, but it's one of those where it's like I can't criticize it too much just because we don't have the full picture yet. Which is a failing of the film, the fact that it's not a complete movie. So
that's probably the biggest criticism I've seen everyone make about this movie is that it's a part one only.
Yeah, the comparison I made was to Infinity War and Endgame. They're a two-parter. That's absolutely one full story. But when you get to the final battle in Infinity War, you feel that that's the climax. You feel this is the end of the movie. But when you get to that, the climax of Spider-Verse is the chase. And that doesn't feel like the end of the movie. That feels like, again, the end of Act 2. So it
totally... I remembered halfway through that ending, Snake, I was like, wait, I forgot, there's a part 2 to this. Oh no, we're about to get credits out of nowhere, aren't we?
I knew that too. A lot of people in the audience and like my friends did not know that. And I remember hearing some like Adam from YMS was like in their theater like, what? Why do you end it? What? End it now? Ah! Kind of a thing. The whole audience
they just made a 5-hour movie instead, just included like. Just
oh my gosh!
Fuck it, it's 5 hours. Let it be 5 hours. There'll be an intermission.
I'm sure some places will do it that way. There will be some places that'll be like the full double bill, watch it all in one go. Hey.
Oh, maybe that'd be insane. This movie has that same issue with like Dune recently, and I think even Twin Tower to an extent, because I have the same feeling with Dune. I'm watching it, I'm like, yeah, that ending is not really also the same feeling too. It's like you end it like that for Dune, so I need that part too, basically, to like understand the whole experience for that too.
So for people who tell their own stories, it's an important thing to keep in mind. If you're telling a story that is like a multi-parter, each part has to feel like a full story. Like Lord of the Rings is one large story told over 3 books or films, but each one has their own climax. Even though Two Towers is just like the second part, you still have the Battle of Helm's Deep to be the big climax and like
climax part of it.
I think the films kind of approach it a little better by having the Osgiliath scenes for Frodo, so he gets a little climax before we move on to the next film. Bit of that. So like that's an important part of telling this kind of story, and I feel like Spider-Verse fails at that. Whereas stuff like Infinity War and Endgame, Lord of the Rings, Matrix Reloaded did it better in 2003. Okay. Ooh, as weird as that ending was, with that big talk with the architect that goes on for like 10 minutes and makes no sense no matter how many times you watch it, it is still not a full story, but it has like a complete
a closing part for that, basically.
Yeah, like it does feel like a full piece rather than I was designed that way rather than this thing's getting too long. Cut, show the rest later.
Oh, I got a question I gotta ask. So what did you feel about the first Spider-Verse movie, by the way, Snake?
Really good.
Okay,
I wouldn't say it's the best one or my favourite. I would say it's probably definitely in the top 5, possibly in the top 3.
Like movies in general or animated movies in general?
Spider-Man movies.
Ah, okay. I would say yes.
There were things that were... I wish the other 3 Spideys in that had a bit more screen time, a bit more focus, but, you know, it's the origin story for Miles. You need to put a lot of focus on him, so it made sense to narrow the focus. Then this one is just kind of all over the place. Almost feels more like a Spider-Man TV miniseries, and like this is the first half of the season.
Yeah, that's how I felt like it too. I really felt like watching this is like the Gwen intro. I felt like I was watching an anime where like the Gwen intro is one episode, the Miles stuff is an episode, Spider Society is the next episode, and to be continued. Like this feel like I
was a bit mad how much they brought up Miles being bitten by a radioactive spider, because first Gwen totally brings it up, and then Miles brings it up again when he gets reintroduced, and then he brings it up a third time when he's like fighting Miguel, and I'm like,
I didn't notice that.
Yes, I know that's what happened to you. Also, it's weird that you're making that a big heroic moment because your origin is not unique. It's like the exact same as everyone else. Like, I'm Miles Morales. I was bitten by a radioactive spider. Oh, well, everybody? What's special
everyone's
about
introduction
this
is that too.
Well, that's the thing, because
when he's fighting Miguel, like it's supposed to be a big like I'm me, I'm unique kind of moment, but it's literally identical to everyone else's origin.
What if that's the twist? What if they keep pushing that on you so you'll notice, so you'll think, radioactive spider, and then the next film's like, well, that spider came from a different universe. We don't know. Do we know exactly how that spider came to be? I mean, we assume it's radioactive. What if it's magic? And so Miles is different, magic, and that's why he doesn't have to play by the same rules. And that's the twist.
Big twist.
I was actually thinking something different. I was thinking, what if getting bit by something from a different universe makes you immune to canon events? So, like, whatever he does is, like, fine. He's already outside the loop.
I really don't like that Gary's too.
Or it's a loophole. Powers. It's a loophole because it's like, a police captain close to Spider-Man has to die. This spider comes from a universe where Miles' police captain father is already dead. Therefore, it's already happened, and he didn't know. And that's the reveal. That's where it's going. There's so many stupid ways this can be resolved, and it's going to be one of them.
The spider was a police captain. And it died.
What is this, Penny spider or something here going on?
The spider, yeah.
When they're going to introduce spiders,
also,
man.
Really minor thing, but can they please let Peter B. Parker take off the pink bathrobe for the final movie? I get that it was
I'm sure
a joke,
they will.
But he's still wearing it at the end, and I really don't want him to wear that pink outfit the entire time.
I love Peter B. Parker in the first Spider-Verse movie. I wish he got to do more in this new one. For what we see now, he's the Joker guy. You know what?
The new one is so Miles-centric that no one gets to like do much of anything.
Objection. Gwen is also the main character in this one.
Well, Gwen's because Gwen's going to be the love interest for Miles.
They're going with that, right? But I bet this movie's half Gwen, half Miles, in my opinion. Yeah.
Because the next movie
Spider-Rex stole the show.
The next movie's going to jump.
Yeah.
The next movie will jump forward and be like, oh yeah, Miles and Gwen have a kid who's going to join the Spider Society.
No.
That's going to happen.
They just skip forward. Oh my god.
I don't think they're going to skip forward that much.
They won't, because they have to resolve him being held hostage by himself.
See, that's true. That's right.
But the Spider-Man who needs to be brought in to be like the real hero is Peter Park's car.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. There was that car.
Peter Park's car.
Because
Or Ben Reilly. Let Ben Reilly do something besides be a joke character, because like those fans just keep getting done so dirty.
I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, they brought Ben back in the comics and then had him turn into the Jackal, and he was a villain for a while. That sucks.
And they made him the Fracture or whatever now recently too. There's some new villain that he is. He's purple and green and black. I laughed at first when he's like, "Oh, my origin's so dark and sad. Oh, just got flashbacks of it." But then I thought because Miguel had him on his A squad that he'd actually do something cool. But no, he just acts stupid and gets webbed into a portal. And I'm like, why?
There's like 20 seconds of his movie clips are like 20 seconds. You can find on YouTube basically. There it is. There's all Ben Reilly scenes right there. But
why was he on the A team? Like, why did Miguel grab him specifically if he can't do anything? Oh well.
I don't remember who else is on the A team except Spider-Woman and.
I hate Spider-Woman. I hate the whole thing, which is like, oh, here's pregnant Spider-Woman on a motorbike.
That's a comic reference.
Terrible.
Yeah, unfortunately, some of the
they don't really bring
Marvel
that up too much
stuff,
at least. So,
but it's still weird because that feels like it's done out of spite because that comic was not received well by even the fans, and it seems like Marvel's hurt about it and just brought it back in the films as like a middle finger. Because keep in mind, that's not part of her character. She spent her entire career in the comics being not pregnant. Just for like a couple of issues, she was pregnant, and they chose that to bring in, which is kind of weird. And then also, such a minor thing, you can probably cut this if you want to, but also Sun Spider shows up. She's one of the few Spider-Men to land a clean hit on Miles Morales, and she has a pun before she does it. She gets screen time for like a solid 6 seconds. She is the most hated new Spider-Man ever created, and she got canceled already. She didn't sell anything. She sold no comics. People were making fun of her because she's such a tone-deaf character from the writers. And they gave her a speaking role. In like 10 seconds of her like on screen upside down.
Are you talking about the one on the wheelchair?
The spider wheelchair, which she does not have in the comics. In the comics, she has the crutches that shoot webs.
Yeah,
I remember
she was part of the
comic page or something.
She was in the team of losers. She was in the team of losers in End of the Spider-Verse. Like she's part of that team, which has like Spider-Man.
Yeah, they push her super hard in the
Spider-Man,
comics, but she's never
Cat.
been accepted really. Anyway, my point is she got all this screen time over all these actual fan favorite comics, which to me just feels again like Marvel Comics being upset that they weren't like super popular, so they just put them in the movie. And it's like, okay, I mean, I wouldn't mind her being in the background somewhere, but she got a full like speaking role and everything was portrayed positively, landed her punch, you know, all that stuff. They changed her mode of transportation because they realized how tone deaf that was to have her swinging from like her crutches in the comics, but. Yeah, anyway, I don't want to be insensitive because I like the design. I actually like how Sun Spider looks, and I think it could have been done well, but it just feels like Marvel Comics put their hand in the cookie jar with this movie, and that's why it dipped in some ways. Like
well, I mean, to be fair, though, you mentioning Sun Spider means that she has, like, popularity, or she exists.
But I only
like,
know about
that
because she's hated. Like,
I only know about that because of that one page, like that was on Twitter popular for some reason. It's like that she exists. There's a Spider-Man with clutches. Like that's it. Like oh okay, but I mean like
well like I only know about her because they made fun of her all over YouTube. Is why I knew about her. But like, and I don't hate the character at all. It's just like it's so weird that she jumped the line in front of everybody. Like there's so many famous Spider people that could have had that moment, but they gave it to her. Specifically, which is really weird to me. I think she has like less than 10 comics total.
Sure.
And it just feels kind of weird.
Didn't Did they say they were going to have Spider-Man in this? Like, it was one of the first things they said about the film, and then he just the Sentai Spider-Man. Sorry,
yeah, they did say that.
Sorry,
Japanese Spider-Man would be there. Yeah.
It's not Sentai Spider-Man. I've seen people is corrected. No, it's not. It's Tokusatsu Spider-Man. Because
yes, you better get that right. People got mad if you get that wrong. Yeah. My friend was looking very forward to seeing him too. I did not. Okay, I've heard people say they want to see him, but I've never heard a confirmed source about this. Like, that's why I was very certain he wasn't going to show up in this movie, because if he was going to show up, they would show it in the trailers. I feel like he's such an iconic. Like, people really want to see him again.
Yeah. What I think they could do to try and salvage a lot of the dumb shit with this whole film is because I thought it was weird that the Spider-Man leading all the Spider-Men in the multiverse stuff wasn't Spider UK, because that's the way the comic versions did it. Where when Peter 616 isn't leading them, it's him, because he's Captain Britain as well, and Captain Britain protects the multiverse, so he's a perfect fit to do this. So I find it weird that they didn't do that. So if they have it that he shows up and says, Miguel, you're a fucking idiot.
I just realized too, if Captain Universe had been there wouldn't have been a chase.
Yeah. I mean, they had Captain Universe in Spider-Verse as well, and the comic, and then he died. So,
yeah, but that was to the Inheritor, who's like a literal hard counter to him. But like, what's Miles gonna do against a being who can travel at the speed of light and alter like reality itself with his fingertips? So you can't escape that guy.
I know some of the Spider-Verse stuff is. Like, even the villains are very different, right? From, like, you guys mentioned... You talked about this a long time ago, too. It's, like, a very different, like, depiction with both sides.
Why was Peter Parquois not there? The French Spider-Man from the Shakespearean era.
Oh, is that the 1608 version? Or...
Would that be where the Vulture was from, the very beginning one? Would that be the same one?
It could be that, but I think he's actually... That could be it, actually, yeah. I thought he was actually going to be from... there's a different Spider-Man... Oh, Spider-Woman, who's from the steampunk era. I thought it was her Vulture when I first saw it. By the way, can we just mention one joke that I bet almost nobody caught, but in my theater specifically, one person caught it, and it made their entire night. They said one of the loudest "ha" I've ever heard in my life out of context, and no one else in the theater got the joke. It's a scene where it's either a Spider-Man or a villain. I can't recall which one, but their whole theme is around fonts, and they look at Miles and say, "Go to hell, Vetica." Which is a font joke.
Was that when they were introducing all the different versions of the villains in the cubes or something?
Maybe, but that joke really killed somebody in the audience. Somebody's a fan of font humor. Anyway, I guess no one else got it. So that joke lives on as being a very specific and niche joke, but I laughed at it. I've repeated it several times. Go to hell, Vetica.
And then
gotta rewatch to see that moment.
And they basically confirmed that MCU Prowler is the Prowler. When he shows up.
coming up or something. Yeah, I was like, oh, yeah, I remember you.
That is the thing.
This is America guy. Okay, so before we get to the 40-minute mark of the of this discussion of the Spider-Verse, I want to mention two things myself about this, because I haven't been negative towards this film, at least in this discussion, too much. But I'll say, because most of these issues I am not as I don't mind as much, but the thing that I would say that bumped me down a bit of a score is and don't get me wrong, I don't completely hate this thing. Some of the humor did not work for me. Because the first Spider-Verse, I was like, hell yeah, I love this tone, I love this humor, I love this style. Some of the humor in this I felt was the kind that I don't like from Scorpion's Revenge, Johnny Cage, which is just you don't need to speak you don't need to keep talking. When Gwen was fighting the Vulture, she would not shut up about everything. She's just oh, here goes a pun, here comes a joke, here goes a pun, here goes a joke, hee hee hee, ha ha. Yeah. It's you can cut 4, you don't need to say that many, because I don't know, it just kept going on for some of these humor parts. But the biggest issue, in my opinion, is some of these humor scenes really ruin the tone of the movie in some senses. Because this movie has a lot of pretty serious moments, has oh shit moments in the movie, but then they kind of play it off with some humor stuff. I like the villains in this movie. I like Miguel, but holy shit, they really ruined some threatening stuff about Miguel because of the humor of the movie. I'll bring up Puss in Boots here, because have you seen Puss in Boots, Snake? Okay, well, here's my controversial take, by the way. I think Puss in Boots is the better movie here, honestly, in my opinion. I think, but there's my hot take. In Puss in Boots, there is a certain, because that movie is also very funny. That movie has a lot of humor and stuff in there. There is a certain villain character who is in that movie, and when that villain character shows up, it is no joke, serious time. Oh my gosh, I could die any moment in that movie. It's like, oh, we can't joke around against this character because like he can kill me. This is actually the threat of the film. And that was great. That was like, okay, that's the tone. It's like it really balances humor and seriousness. In this movie, it's like, hey guys, Peter B. Parker back. Isn't my daughter adorable? Oh, this is a funny thing. That's very funny. By the way, Miguel, sorry. And Miguel's like, okay, very funny. By the way, Miles, your dad's gonna die. That is a scene that follows right after that. I'm like, what the fuck? This is
a bit toned
the
down.
tone could have been so much better when, it's like you really, the funny things need to be funny in their own stuff. But like they kept joking with Miguel, and I'm just like, this is supposed to be like a really threatening character, but it's like, gosh, I don't know. Like I don't mind if you want to joke around against Miguel, but it's just like 50% or so much of it is just humor with Miguel, with Lila, and like Spider-Woman and Gwen and stuff like that. And I'm just like, come on now. Like, you need to time it well. I think the first Spider-Verse movie timed it well. It wasn't like Miles being like, hey guys, I'm doing great here, and then Prowler dies. No, it's like, that was a very great serious moment. Or even Peter Parker's death in that movie and stuff like that. It's like, tonally speaking, that would be one of my biggest issues.
In the first movie, when Miles beats Kingpin, that's a joke. That's the, hey. It's built on a joke. But it's not just completely played flaps. It's like he's using it in a proper, legitimate way, and it works like as an emotional beat because he's basically honouring his uncle by taking down the man who killed him with something he'd learned from his uncle. Like, it works really well. They found the right way to balance it. Whereas here it's like Miguel's explained. Was like, I guess it's almost like they were like, oh no, the kids are going to get bored of Miguel's explanations of things. Let's have Spider-Man's daughter just crawl all over him and just be a nuisance the entire scene. Ha ha ha! Isn't it funny?
Yeah, literally, I don't mind this type of humor shenanigans if it was an MCU movie, but this is Spider-Verse, the sequel. That's why I'm much more picky on these sort of things, because it's like that first movie, I rewatched it before watching this movie. I'm like, I could see why some people would say this is like their top 10 favorite movies. It is great, but
that's like the biggest sin. Yeah, is that the new one is just not. It doesn't stand up to the original, because the original is like almost perfect, and the new one's not a bad film, but just when compared to the original, it's like didn't quite reach that perfectness.
To me, at least, the forgiving grace about one last thing I'll mention, by the way, we like shitting on villains in like superhero movies. I think this movie does a pretty good job with the villains. The Spot, I think, is a great, like, I think someone made a good mention. It's like the Spot's kind of like in a sort of way like the reverse of a main character, where they slowly grow into like, oh, who they're supposed to be kind of thing. The Spot's like starts off as a joke and slowly becomes like a great threat, or at least we'll see what happens in the sequel. And Miguel, like, I don't think he's a villain, but I mean, we're counting him in here. Like, with my issues with him, I still think he's a very good force in that kind of sense. But good villains in superhero movies is rare, so I'll compliment that aspect about this one here. Yeah. What was I mentioning just then after this? I was
speaking of puns.
Oh, like, wait. Let me bring this.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I just remembered. Yeah, because like this movie literally did remind me of some of the MCU humor, like I just mentioned just then, which I kind of wish they cut that down a bit. But other than that, like, I would say the reason why I think it's an 8 out of 10, but I'd still give it a 9 out of 10, is just I think the animation is insanely good. Yeah. Like, I think
I'll give it a super high score too.
Just that animation is like, oh, I would watch that just for like, I wouldn't mind watching clips of scenes and just how they do the animations and all that kind of stuff, like a Ghibli film kind of a situation. And like, yeah, that animation like level of like like amazing things that I'm seeing and like shots are like so well done, and that's the thing that really bumps it up for me as an enjoyment experience. But yeah, I have issues with it too. I don't think it's like a perfect movie, in my opinion.
It's kind of fun actually, because when I mentioned the whole thing with Spider UK and that, is because Miguel is a lot more, he's huge here, unlike in the previous film when he showed up, or in the
credit
comics.
Scene, or in the credits too,
So that's kind of weird, but also when because like that something similar happened with Spider UK. Like, he got way more buff in Spider-Geddon. So it's like I have to wonder, what was there a point where he was going to have that role, and then they decided, and Miguel was just going to be a recruiter, but then they decided, no, we'll give Miguel the big role because he's the character people actually know, and then we'll just make him big and buff and weird.
I mean,
who knows?
It's hot. People like that new Miguel design.
I'm glad that he is daddy to a lot of people. The respect he finally deserves.
So much. My favorite fan art of Miguel is just him being shipped with Lego Spider-Man. Just like on the bed being like being shipped. It's like, oh my gosh.
One more annoying thing about the movie, though, is now there's a big chunk of people who took Gwen's line literally and think that Miguel is part vampire. He's not.
Yes.
He's just part spider.
A lot of people got that mixed up. I was like, I remember you guys mentioned this to me before. It's like he's one of the only spider people who actually bite people. Like as I think you guys
he can
said
sedate
before.
you by biting you, which was weird to me. He didn't do that when he got right in Miles' ear and could have just bit him, but he just.
Oh, he doesn't want to kill Miles, I guess.
It doesn't kill you. It just paralyzes you for a bit. It's legit go to sleep. It's the perfect way to catch him in that moment, but he just doesn't.
Well, he really wanted to basically tell Miles that like you're a mistake. That whole entire monologue part.
Well, see, that reminds me of this meme. I thought I remembered it before. It's an image someone did where it's just like a tiny little Miles, looking very baby with like tiny eyes, saying, "I just want." It's like a 15-year-old child. I just want my dad. I just want my dad to live. And then like Miguel, like grown ass man, like fuck you. You're selfish. Go die. Which is basically
Miles is like, I'm 15 years old. By the way, that meme originated from Steven Universe.
Oh yeah, I'm 15 years old.
No. It's like the Steven being like, I want to say the diamonds. How could you do this? It's like, how go die? You fuck you. I'm 15 years old. Or something like that. That originated from Steven Universe, from what I recall. So someone just copied that for the Miles and Miguel situation. How many hours do I have to edit this episode? Oh my gosh.
Every criticism I have can be taken away if the third film just recognizes that Miles was
wrong,
flawed slightly in what he wants to do. Yeah, well, they can both be right and wrong because it's a morally ambiguous situation. But
I hope they do that, honestly, too. Yeah.
Like Miles isn't
let Miguel
wrong.
Do something cool.
He's not wrong. He's incorrect. That's what it is.
To me, I think Miles is like he does have things that's wrong about his beliefs, but and in my opinion, this is how I felt about the movie. The first half, I was like, oh, I'm vibing with this. This is good. When Miles is truly alone, when he gets betrayed by like Gwen, when he really has to like work on his own, is when I'm like, okay, for Miles' own journey, I do like this movie now, basically. For me, I like that aspect about Miles being like, he really is alone and he has no one he can really trust right now. Is like, oh, that's not a bad like direction he's going right now, in my opinion.
You just have to hope they can stick the landing, because there's a lot that can go wrong with this. The whole thing of because the thing, it's one of those things where I feel like, because this could be leading into the whole reveal that Miles is wrong, because it really does feel like, faced with an impossible situation, most Spider-Men would be like, no, I want to save the person. I can find a way to do this. It seems like a very Spider-Man thing to do, and it usually does work out. So that's the question: is it going to just work out like usual, or is it going to be a message here that no, Miles, sometimes, like, it's not just sometimes you can't save everyone. It's sometimes you just have to. Well, that is kind of it, but like, I'm not sure how to put it, because that is something Spider-Ham said last time. You can't save everyone.
You can't save everyone. Yeah. Sometimes you just can't save everyone, Miles. Yeah.
So it's like, is this film actually going to be like, no, straight up, Miles, you can't save everyone. Sometimes you have to let them go, or is it just going to like cower out and say, nah, there's another way.
Yeah, like we've been going back and forth with this, basically. Yeah, just this aspect of like what they're gonna do with the sequel, and I hope they land it, basically.
Did anyone else notice that isn't Mary Jane supposed to be in the band, the Mary Janes?
She was there.
Are you sure? Because I don't remember seeing her
appearance. They swapped her.
Because I'm like, where is she? And I was like, did they make her black because she's a redhead?
They did the redhead thing, but at least we still have the OG Mary Jane with Peter B. Parker. But she's there.
I didn't know that.
I noticed.
I didn't see that.
It's such an odd thing to do when you have another MJ right there. And it's also weird because they made Spider-Woman black, but it's not Julia Carpenter, the redhead. It's Jessica Drew, who has black hair. Mm-hmm. Also, I don't think there's ever been a version of Jessica Drew who actually has the English accent, because she's English or was raised in England. So
did not know that.
But it's like just some
different. Yeah.
Fucking
yeah.
I hope Madam Web shows up. That'd be cool.
Oh yeah,
cool.
big Spider-Verse connection lady basically.
Oh, she would have made the most sense, huh? As like the person controlling everything and being like, no, Miguel. I mean, no, Miles, don't do it. Your dad has to die.
Well, that's the thing, because you need to have someone who can be an imposing threat. So you have this big roid head who's like, I'm gonna fucking murder this child. And it's like,
yeah, you can't have Miles punching Madam Web in the face.
Wouldn't it have made more sense if instead of Miguel, it was like a superior Spider-Man?
That would be great, but that'd be too on the nose for comic fans who know who that is. How does Spider-Woman fire webs through her gloves? Anyway, this is going on.
I mean, I think it looks cool though. The 5-finger spider web.
That's always been her thing too. I thought that she stole that from Silk, and then a commenter corrected me like, "No, that's always been her thing." And I was like, "Dang, Silk is redundant AF. Like Silk is not unique in any way." Because that was her only thing, was firing webs from the fingertips, and that's.
I did see the meme where it was like, "Oh, Silk can't be in this movie, but why?" Well,
Still could.
From another universe, maybe. Yeah.
Oh my, who is this spider character? Is this real?
I mean, Silk is like the most important person in the Spider-Verse comic stories now. The torch has been passed. She's the chosen one now. It's fucking bullshit. Like trust me. If you think, oh, I like Spider-Verse stories. I like Shattered Dimensions, Spider Wars, these movies, all that stuff. I want to check out the comic versions. Don't. The comic Spider-Verse stories are the worst ones. They are.
I've heard about that.
With their Game of Thrones, like everyone dies. Just expect lots of death because it's just so much murder.
I don't like the Game of Thrones comparison here. I like The Walking Dead more because that shows shit. So I think that, well, to be fair, Game of Thrones is bad at the very end though. But yeah.
The issue is I didn't dislike the Spider-Verse, not the first one at least. I thought it was fine, but I understand that it's edgy, 13-year-old berserk, but it's Spider-Man.
Berserk.
Yeah, because it's so depressing. Like main characters who've been around for a bit like just die, and you're like, oh dang.
Well, they do, but then they also coward out and it's like, oh yeah, the Marvel vs. Capcom 1 Spider-Man, dead. Spider-Man is Amazing Friends, dead. Hostess Fruit Pies add Spider-Man, dead. But then it turns out, no. Those are just adjacent versions. The real ones are safe and sound. Then what was the point of any of it? Yeah. Fuck you.
That's dumb. I didn't know that at the time because I was reading it as it was ongoing. Oh, Spider-Monkey also dies. So if you like Spider-Monkey, he gets killed too.
Oh, yeah, not the monkey.
Ben
Riley still have the T-Rex wearing
Noir dies in the second one.
Huh?
Noir gets fucking killed in an explosion in the second one.
Oh, I didn't know that. I haven't read that. I refused to read a second one because they already finished it so well. I was like, nah, y'all are milking it now. Like you always do. You had one success with Spider-Gwen, and now we have all the Gwen-verse and all the Gwens. Then when that didn't work, you made Miles into everybody. And then when that finally petered out, you did Venom-verse. And then when that worked out, more Venom-verse. And so yeah, I don't like when they go back to the cookie jar a second time. But
yeah, I just saw the meme picture being like the movies doing well, the new Insomnia game which has Miles doing well, the comic.
Comics will never sell for some reason.
Maybe don't check out the sad life of Peter Parker in the recent comics and stuff like that.
No.
Oof.
It was funny seeing people celebrating the erasure of MJ and these kids. That was pretty funny.
Like, yes, now they can be with Mary Jane.
It's so morose, but it's fucking hilarious.
I didn't see how it exactly happens, but I picture it being like in Back to the Future, where like they just start fading away in real time, and it's like, no.
I think that is it. I think that is what happens.
Like, oh my gosh! Modern comics are so funny, dude. It's so, sometimes they're good every now and then, but like there's so many bad ones, and you're just like, this is amazing. It's like a train crash. Like it's just so interesting to read. Marvel Comics, I love you. Publish me.
They really do kind of coast by on the reputations of the franchises. Like most of the actual content is just dire.
Yeah.
There are good, so obviously there are still some good comics out there. It's just it's frustrating to follow because of the shared universe stuff. Like,
all the
enjoying
writers
this
changing
comic.
too. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
hard to.
I enjoy this comic. This comic is fun. I'm enjoying reading this character. Oh, what's that? They died in an event comic, so their book got cancelled. Oh.
See, that's why I liked Ultimate Spider-Man so much, and like I know that like that writer may have fell off sometimes, but at least it was the same writer and same artist for like 100 issues, so it made sense and it felt like canonical and consistent. The problem now is every like 3 issues they change writers and artists, so like it's really hard to have any sort of consistency. So I kind of hope this is crazy, but imagine if Marvel and DC both did another like Flashpoint or a New 52 reset, but this time they think real hard about which writer gets to have which character, and they're not allowed to switch. Like, you are writing Spider-Man for the next 5 years, and you're not allowed to switch. That's just how it is. You are writing Venom for the next 5 years, and you can't switch. So we have some consistency in what happens in these stories. But, oh well. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba. I'm going to take my shirt off. Do we get in the video with that, with the nipple reveal?